Welcome back. Now we're on lesson number 10 and we are looking at negative and fractional indices again, but this is part number 2. So slightly different. And here is what we have to begin with. So we've got just an expression here. What we need to do is try and simplify this as much as possible. So what we'll do is we're going to focus on the brackets here. So there's 2x to the minus 3 all to the power of 5. And what we're going to do is work with that. So everything in this bracket is affected by this power of 5. And what we're going to do then is apply that power of 5 to everything within your bracket. So we can say that's 2 then to the power of 5, and then x to the minus 3 also to the power of 5. Now 2 to the power of 5 is 32. And then what do we do here? We're going to multiply our indices together. So we'll have x to the power of minus 15. So that's everything in blue sorted out. Now remember, we had this 2x, which was in front of the bracket. So what we'll do now is put that 2x back in. And what we're doing is multiplying those two things together. And so from there, we can say, well, we can multiply this 2 by the 32. And so that's going to leave you with 64. And then this x in here has a power of 1 on it. And so what we'll need to do now is add our indices or add our powers together because we're multiplying. So that's going to be x to the power of, and that's going to be minus 14. And that's it. So that's how we're going to simplify that first one there. Next, something a bit more complicated. So given that y is this here, so 2/15 x to the 4, express each of the following in the form kx to the n, where k and n are constants. So first thing we've got to express is 5y to the power of minus 1. So what we're going to do is substitute this here, so 2/15 x to the 4, into y. So we've got 5, and then I'm going to open bracket and I'm going to substitute that in. So 2/15 x to the 4, and that's all to the power of minus 1. So just like we did before, I'm going to focus on just this part here in the bracket. And what we're doing is applying a power of minus 1 to it. So I'm going to say, well, I've got 2/15 then to the power of minus 1 and x to the 4 to the power of minus 1. Now we're going to work with each of these bits. So with the first bit here, remember the negative power, what does that mean again? That means that we need the reciprocal. And so that's going to leave me with just 15/2. And then what are we doing in here? We've got to multiply our powers together. So that's x to the power of minus 4. Now don't forget, we had this 5 on the outside, so I'm going to put that back in now. So it's 5 lots of this. And now we can simplify this down. So we've got 5 multiplied by 15/2 x to the minus 4. I'm just going to rewrite that out. So 5 times 15/2 x to the minus 4. And then if you multiply that together, what are we going to get? We're going to get 75/2 and then x to the power of minus 4. And that's how you want to leave it. Now, with the next part again, let's go ahead and substitute the 2/15 x to the 4 in place of the y. So let me just create a bit of space here. We've got a half, then let's sub this in. So 2/15 x to the 4, and this time it's to the power of minus 3. So let's go ahead and highlight this part in brackets again in blue, and we're going to work with that power of minus 3. So split it up. So you've got 2/15 to the power of minus 3 and x to the 4 to the power of minus 3. Now, again, this negative, what does it mean? The negative means that we're going to need the reciprocal. So flip the fraction over, and then there was a power of 3 on there. So I'm going to leave that power of 3 over there. What do I do here? Multiply the powers. So x to the power of minus 12. Now, we'll need to do a bit more work over here because we've got to cube 15/2. So 15/2 cubed. So 15 cubed, I think that's 3375. 2 cubed is 8, so that's on the bottom. And then x to the power of minus 12. We're nearly there, but don't forget you had this half at the front. So we need to put that back in. So it's half times by all this stuff here. So let's just rewrite this out here. So we'd have a half times by 3375 over 8 x to the minus 12. And so if you multiply that together, that's going to give me 3375 over 16 and then x to the minus 12. And that's that. That's how we can leave it. Now, let's move it on again. Here's the next one. We're going to do the same thing there. We're going to look to split this up. right? Just as we were doing before. So we'll have 8 over 27, and that's to the power of 2/3, and then x to the 5, also to the power of 2/3. Now remember, when you've got your fractional powers there, the bottom number tells you what you're going to root it by, or and then the top number, what power you're going to apply to it afterwards. So the 3 there means we're going to need to cube root. So we'll cube root the 8, and we're going to cube root the 27. But then after we've cube rooted it, we'll need to apply a power of 2 to each of them because of the 2 in the numerator there. And then we'll simplify that in a second. What can we do over here? We'll need to multiply these powers together. So that's x to the power of, that would be 10/3. Now let's just simplify this part down here. So looking at this, the cube root of 8 is 2. And then we need to square it. So 2 squared, that's going to be 4. Now let's look at the bottom there. The cube root of 27 is 3. 3 squared is going to be 9. So you've got 4/9, and then x to the power of 10/3. And that's that one done. Now this one here, a little bit more tricky. So you've got this. You've got 2 to the power of 3x plus 2. And what you need to do is now rewrite this in the form of 16 to the power of something. Now, what do we know? Well, we know that the 4th root of 16 is equal to 2. And that's because 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 will give you 16. But then this here, the 4th root of 16, how else can we write that? We can turn that into an indice, and we can say that's 16 to the power of a quarter. And now this is what we're going to use, because we can say that this 2 here, so let me just highlight this real quickly in blue, this 2 is equivalent to 16 to the power of a quarter, because that's 2. And then what we'll need to do then is put that power back in on the outside. So now we've got 16 to the power of something. What do we need to do now? Well, we'll just need to multiply these powers out. So we'll have 16, and then a quarter times by 3x, that's going to be 3/4 x. And then a quarter times by a positive 2 there, that's just going to be a half. And there we go. We'll have 16 to the power of 3/4 x plus a half. And that's that. Now for the next one, we've got to write this here in the form 3x to the power of a plus x to the b. So looking at this here, we've got the square root of x. Now square root of x, if you turn that into an indice, that's just going to be x to the power of a half. And then what have we got here? Well, we've got 1 over x to the 4. So that there is a reciprocal again, right? It's on the bottom of a fraction. So the way we could write that is x to the power of -4. Because remember, the negative means that it's reciprocal, it's on the bottom of a fraction. And that's that there. So a is going to be a half, and b is going to be -4. Now looking at the next one, we need to rewrite this fraction here in the form 3x to the power of a plus 7x to the b. So what should we do? Well, we're going to need to split this fraction up. Let's split it into 2 fractions, right? So we'll do this. We're going to have it as 3x squared over the cube root of x plus 7 root x over the cube root of x. And now the next thing I'm going to do is this here, the cube root of x. We're going to rewrite that as an indice. So the cube root of x we can write as a power of a third. So let's have that as 3x squared over x to the third. And then 7, I'm going to leave that as root x for now. And then on the bottom there, x to the third. Now this square root, we should change that as well, right? A square root is going to be x to the power of a half. So let's get rid of that. And we can rewrite that there as x to the half. There we go. Now, what are we doing here? Let's start to simplify this. We've got 3x squared. We're dividing it by x to the power of a third. And so what we'll need to do is subtract our indices. And so that's going to leave us with 3. X to the power of, and that would be 1 2/3, which is what, 5 over 3. So we can leave it like that. And then with the next one there, we will have 7x to the half divided by x to the third. And what we'll need to do again is subtract our indices there. So that's going to be, what's that, a half minus a third. I think that's just going to be a 6th, isn't it? So that's 7, just fill that in, 7x to the power of a 6th. And so that's in the form that they wanted, right? So A is going to be 5/3 and B is going to be 1/6. Done. Okay, next, very similar again. But what we'll need to do maybe is expand out the bracket on the top before we begin. So let's expand that out, right? So we'll have x plus 3. And because we're squaring it, let's write the bracket out twice. X plus 3, all over x to the power of a half. So if we multiply that out, that's going to be x squared plus 6x plus 9 all over x to the power of a half. Now what should we do? Last time we split it into 2 fractions. This time let's split this up into 3 fractions, okay? So we'll have x to the half on the bottom here and x squared on the top, and then 6x on the top, and then x to the half on the bottom, and then 9 over x to the half. There we go. Right, this is good. Now we just need to simplify this down a little bit. So again, because we're dividing, we'll need to subtract our powers. So then that's x to the 2 there, x to the half, so 2 take away a half, so x to the power of 1.5, or 3 over 2. With the next one, make sure you've got a power of 1 there, and if we take away our powers, that's going to be 6x to the power of a half. And then with the next one, well, we've got the x to the half, this time on the bottom of your fraction, so it's a reciprocal again, right? So what we can say is this is going to be 9x to the power of minus half, again because it's on the bottom of your fraction there. And that's that. So that's in that form that they wanted there. So A is going to be 3 over 2, B is going to be a half, and C is going to be negative a half. Okay, now here's 2 questions for you to practice. So jot these down, have a quick go, and we'll catch up in a couple seconds to go through the answers. Righto, it is correction time, so let's get through it. Now, with the first one, what do we need to do? We'll need to split that up, right, into 2 fractions. So let's get splitting this up. We've got x to the half over the square root of x cubed, and then we'll have our second fraction as 7x over the square root of x cubed. Now what should we do from here? Well, we've got to change this here slightly, right? We've got to change these, turn it into just a single indice there. So we'll have x to the half over. Now the square root of x, remember, is a power of a half. So what we can say then is we've got this. We've got x to the power of 3 over 2. And then with the other one there, we'll have 7x and then x to the 3 over 2 again on the bottom. And so what do we do now? Well, we're just going to need to subtract our powers. So for the first one, that's 2 take away 3 over 2. So that's going to be x to the power of a half. And then for the next one there, remember that's there as a power of 1. So you're doing 1 take away 3 over 2. So we'll be left with 7x to the power of negative a half this time. So there we are. A is going to be a half and B is going to be negative a half. And now for the last one there, we've got to express 5 to the power of 3 minus 4x in this form here, 25 to the power of y. So like we saw earlier, what we'll need to do is find something that we can do with this 25 to make it equivalent to 5. So what we know is that the square root of 25 is equal to 5. Now if we express that as a power, we can say that's 25 to the half, right? So 25 to the half is 5. So now, this 5 to the power of 3 minus 4x, well, the 5 is equivalent to 25 to the half. So I can put that in my brackets instead. And then keep that as our power outside the bracket. And now what should we do? We'll multiply these together. So that's going to be 25, and then half times by 3, 3 over 2. And then take away half times by 4x there, it's just going to be 2x. And that's that. That's how you would leave it. Hopefully you've got both of those correct. Okay, so there's another lesson done on your negative and fractional indices. Hopefully you're getting a bit more comfortable with it. We'll do one more where there's just a couple of little problems that you can solve, and then after that we're moving on to surds. So hope to catch you in that video there.